'cause I have
It's
nothing.
it's been horrible. I mean, I waste so much time just watching my chickens. It's
Welcome to Spilling the Homestead Tea. My name is Olia, and I have my sister Nadia over here. We are two sisters that have been on a homesteading adventure for years now. And I say homesteading because she lives in the city and I live in the country, but I started in the city. And one of the ways that we've learned is we've had these conversations, and we would be on the phone or texting or sending voice messages. And literally, I've learned from her, and maybe she's learned from me. But we wanted to bring you in, and
she says
just
maybe.
maybe.
I learned a lot from her, and I still do.
Well, thank you. So, how are you this morning?
Not gonna lie, I'm a little bit tired. We had a raccoon make its way through the chicken run this morning.
Oh my gosh.
So thankfully I have my chicken. No, everything was closed, but I have my chicken cam, so I was able to see.
Oh, you were able to see. So what kind of chicken cam do you have? I want to know about this.
It's the S-Link Spy Point night cam. It's awesome.
Hold on. I need to write this down. The S-Link Spy Point.
It's by Spy Point, and it's the S-Link, I think.
Does it require Wi-Fi?
It doesn't. It just uses your
phone?
Your
no way.
What is that called?
Phone service?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I need this because I'm that person that always wants to know what's going on. And John and I bought some game cams to put up around the property and around the house. We still haven't put them up in the areas I want to. We have some, but we have an app, and I love knowing what's going on. I'm that nosy lady. I have nothing.
It's been horrible. I mean, I waste so much time just watching my chickens. Is
it like a baby camera for chickens?
Pretty much. It is actually a game. It's a game camera. So I just checked. It's Spy Point.
Okay. So we're going to drop that in the links because I lost a chicken. Nadia knows a couple months ago, and it was crazy. This, whatever it was, literally chewed the bones, and it was just like chomp, chomp, chomp. It wasn't like a carcass was left. It was something that had a bigger mouth. So it was either a bobcat,
you guys have,
a cougar, a coyote, or it could have been a neighbor's dog because the door wasn't shutting all the way. And if you just pushed on it, you could push it open. So a bigger animal could easily do that, but like a dog or a coyote. But it was really sad. And it was it was Nikki's chicken, my friend Nikki. I know. So I was like, sorry, one of your chickens got snacked on, and I don't know what happened. This
monster came in through the night and took your chicken. We have lost a number of chickens too. In fact, we lost 2 chickens. I want to say about 3 or 4 months ago. It feels like it was yesterday, to a raccoon. And so I really wanted a camera to be able to see if there was anything else that was coming in. We caught a groundhog under the chicken coop at one point.
Wow. Do they eat chickens?
No, thankfully.
They don't. Okay. No. Thank goodness. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. I'm sure we have raccoons too, but I couldn't imagine a raccoon doing that in particular. I did. So last time you and I chatted, I asked you how many chickens you have. You're like, I don't even know.
I don't. I've lost track, honestly. I try to count them, but they move around so fast. And by the time they go in the coop, it's too late, and I'm just too tired.
I can only imagine. Are you getting any more this year?
I do want to hatch some of my own chickens, so we'll see how that goes. If I get any broody hens, I hope to.
I know. I wanted to. I know I ordered 20 chicks. Plus 2 roosters. I'll be replacing some of my roosters, which I don't know what I'm going to do with the older roosters yet. Kind of feel bad for Daniel Boone. He has one eye, and he's been a good rooster. I think I'll have to keep him around, but he's just not. I want my roosters to be able to make babies, and Daniel Boone is a smaller size rooster, so he's a breed that's going to make smaller chickens, and I don't want baby chickens. I don't want mini chickens. So I feel bad, but he's such a sweet rooster. And then Peter has turned into a butthead, and he's just so selfish and just just a butt, like a grumpy old man, like it
Oh,
literally.
how old is Peter?
He's old. He was already a couple years old when I got him, and I've had him for several years. So
Wow.
yeah, and
It's like
you were
one of our roosters. We have an old rooster. I have no idea how old he is. It's been at least 6 or 7 years since we've had him.
wow, but
And I
he's
got
nice.
him. He's so nice. So nice. He's
Okay.
actually, we've got 2 roosters. I don't name them. So they're just dad rooster and son rooster.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. But
Yeah.
that's like me. I have one of my bunnies, and one of them is called Papa. And I have
Mhm.
another Papa now. Well, his real name is Chungus, but he's a sweetheart, so I call him Papa.
Chungus. I love
Yeah,
it.
he was born. I got him from a local family. They got into American chinchilla rabbits, and he was the only baby of this mama rabbit. For whatever reason, she only had one, or the other ones died, or something went wrong. So she had one baby, and he got all the milk, and he was like a round ball. He was the fattest baby bunny that anybody has ever seen. He was just like
I
a
believe
ball,
it.
like a round, I don't know if I could describe it, a round ball with ears. And so he grew up very strong. Like he had, this is gross, but he was very like macho. And, animals, dogs, when they assert their territory, they mark. Well, rabbits do that too. And he would literally pee and shoot across through the cage, across the bunny house, like
Oh,
to try
gross.
to pee on random things. And I was standing in there once, and thankfully I was wearing a jacket, and I just felt something hit the back of my jacket, and I look back and I'm like, no, you didn't. And I was
I didn't
like
even know
three
they could do
feet
that.
away from him. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. It's disgusting,
You
but
learn something new every day. See, our conversations are like this all the time. Like, wow, I didn't know that rabbits can pee across the room.
yeah,
No clue.
now you know, like you
Now you
really need
know.
to know that fun fact in your life.
Yeah.
Your life is richer now.
Note to self, don't get rabbits.
Well, there's
we
Monet.
we
Yeah.
we used to have a rabbit too. In fact, he was amazing. I loved a rabbit.
Did you let your rabbit hop around your house all the time?
Oh yeah. Well, he actually was free ranging in our backyard. He would
Oh.
free range with the chickens, and then he would
Hmm.
go back into his cage at night. And at that point, it was an enclosed area where he was safe
Mhm.
from predators. But we
Something
actually,
got him.
well, no, no, no. We ended up giving him to a really nice family, but there was a thunderstorm, lots of wind, and
Mhm.
probably a block or 2 away, there was a home with rabbits, and their rabbit cages tipped over, and they had
Oh.
a lot of female rabbits. And I didn't know this, but I mean, I guess, smelled them. And so he ended up a
Oh my
block or
gosh.
2 away at their property. I do you remember this where I put like flyers all around?
Yeah.
I was like
Like,
so sad. I
oh my
felt
gosh.
horrible because we let him free range, and
Yeah.
he never got out like of our
Yeah.
property from that enclosed area with the chickens, but somehow he got out and made his way all the way down our street, down a busy road to their house. And that's where we found him. In fact, they saw my flyer and they called me and they said, "Hey, we have your rabbit. He's with our girls."
Oh, no, they probably had tons of babies afterwards.
Probably.
Probably.
I don't
She's
think they cared.
which the thing about rabbits and their habit, all the jokes about rabbits, they're true.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's really funny. But anyway, so yeah, right before this, you were telling me about your seeds. So it's February, and Nadia likes to start things super early. You usually have me beat by several weeks to maybe even up to a month sometimes. What have you started already?
The only things I've started are peppers and tomatoes. We
Because you put
already
them in bags, right?
Yeah, I put
Yeah.
them in little Ziploc bags that I reuse year after year, and we've already started our cool weather crops in the garden beds. Those are already in the beds growing.
Oh, okay.
And
I
then
need
I've
to get
just
on that.
yeah, we have Christmas lights in there with 6 mil plastic over the top. You actually
Mhm.
were the one that introduced me to the concept of putting PVC pipes across the garden bed. And
Mhm.
then I've been using that, and that's been fabulous. So anyway, we've got our cool weather crops going. And
Yeah.
then as far as seeds starting indoors, we've got peppers and tomatoes.
See, I failed this winter with cool weather crops. My only problem is right now I get zero direct sunlight in my garden,
Mm,
zero direct. So
yeah.
I get shade and it's not conducive to that. So if I'm going to do cool weather, I literally have to grow them up here where I'm at by the shop and I have a
Mhm,
greenhouse. But right now, moms and dad, all of their things are in there and I just haven't put any beds in. Like I need to
mhm,
create a
mhm.
space. But that's
Yeah.
my dream is next winter, I would love to have, I just want two small beds. I don't care if they're, and I want to have my greens. I want to have
Yeah.
greens and have a couple red cabbages because I'm obsessed with a purple red cabbage.
Yep, same. I
Yeah.
didn't know this, but when I started researching why we're not winter gardening, why is that like not a normal thing? It is
Yeah.
in some places. Some places can do it all year round, but in Idaho, it gets cold. It gets really cold.
Hmm.
But I thought, surely way before industrialization, surely they were growing things in the wintertime. They had
Yeah.
to. So the more I dug into it, in fact, I did find out that used to be the normal thing. You would winter garden, you did a garden all year round. And then
Wow.
because of industrialization, we don't have to, everything is
Yeah.
available to us at the grocery store. So, I think a lot of people are surprised by winter gardening here. In fact, when I moved to Idaho in 2001,
Yeah.
everybody would say, don't plant anything until the snow at Bogus Basin melted. And I would follow that. And then I would wait till March or even April to start my seeds. And then our garden, our seasons are very short here. And so
Hmm.
you get your first tomato at almost the very end of the growing season. So I was like, gosh, this can't be it. There's got to be a better
Yeah.
way. And so then I started winter gardening and it's been fun.
Yeah. That's so interesting. And that
Yeah.
brings up a really like good point too. I mean, so I posted a thing about eggs and the
It went
response,
viral.
it did. It went viral. And I'm like, why couldn't that other thing have gone viral? I did a better job. It was literally like a short reel. I was going to post it to my stories. And I was like, let me just edit this little thing and make it loop. And I'm just going to post it as a reel because I had nothing better to do. And it was like, I thought, you know what? If it helps one person, great. Because maybe they'll be like, oh, I could do this. And what it was it said, did you know that you could freeze eggs? And what I did is I took a silicone tray, broke the eggs in, froze them. And then when they froze, I popped them out into a bag, sucked the air out and threw them in the freezer. And they don't take up hardly any room. And I have like several dozen that I threw in because in the wintertime, I don't get that many eggs from the chickens, all
Mhm.
that stuff. And then I forgot about them. And then eggs have been crazy expensive. And I did buy one or two 18 packs one time. And then I remembered about these, got them out and started using them, and they taste just like eggs. In fact, I researched this, but bakeries often use frozen eggs. And if you go to like King Arthur Flour website, like there's a whole article about using frozen eggs in baking.
Do
Like,
they mix the yolk with the
yeah,
white, or do they just keep
usually,
it whole like you did?
usually either mixed or white separate because you're going to
Mhm.
use them under different circumstances. So
Right.
obviously in some recipes, you might need a completely fresh egg because of what you need to do. You know how there's weird things you have to do. But if for most things, especially if you need just the egg whites, or if you mix them up anyway, then you emulsify them first, kind of mix them up and then
Mhm. See,
freeze
and
them.
that's what surprised me. I actually didn't. I've always, again, another thing that I've always been told is you need to emulsify them first. They just don't taste like a normal egg if you keep the white with the yolk. I didn't know that. So when I
Yeah.
saw your reel, I was like, oh, so there you go. I mean, another example of you hear people tell you something and then you think,
Yeah.
that's an absolute not, I cannot do that.
Hmm.
Try it,
Yeah.
and
Try it.
everybody has different taste. Everybody has
Yeah.
different preferences on texture. Like I love squishy food. So, I think that I probably would like it.
Yeah. Well,
um,
honestly, I make breakfast. John doesn't know the difference.
yeah, there
I
you go.
make little egg rounds. He doesn't know the difference. I've tasted, I don't know the difference. Unless you like, if they get frostbitten, then you probably might tell a difference. But like, unless you like your yolk really runny, you might notice that you can't get your yolk to be runny. But I
Mhm.
had an ADHD moment. So what I was going to say is I posted that just thinking like, oh, this might be kind of cool. And the comments have been interesting. And the thing that like made me realize, I'm like, wow, we've come so far in advancing in our technology and all of this stuff in medicine and how we do things, the industrialization, everything. But we've left so much behind and we've forgotten some of these things that were a normal part of our life, like how to grow a regular kitchen garden. Almost everybody had a small garden, and every home at least. And if you went to the city, you went to the market, you bought things that people down the road with a house and a little garden grew. And we didn't have that many big farms. There were for wheat and things like that, bigger farms, because you need whatever. But it just makes me kind of sad. And then at the same time, with the amount of interest that garnered, that was my silver lining to all this crazy food prices and inflation, is like, okay, maybe these current generations will start wanting to learn more about, putting up food for later, meaning like you have a lot of something, you save it and you can use it later. Like that was a normal thing and we don't do that anymore.
Basically how it started for me. I was like, I want to know how to do this stuff. I don't want to, what if shit hits the fan? And I want to know how to be able to do this myself. That's how it started. But then the further I went into my journey, and as things sort of I became more aware and informed. And I realized that it wasn't just about learning how to do it. It was also about knowing what was in my food. And that, I think, really is the most important piece of it, is it can't get more cleaner than your own, when you work your own soil. And it takes, when you buy a house and you start with your lot or your space, sometimes it takes years to cultivate that and to create this microbiome, like your microbiome. But it's been years now that I've been working my soil. I know exactly what's been in that soil for years now. It feels so good.
It does. I love your dirt. This sounds so weird. Whenever I come to your house, I'm like,
too. Mom says like, I love your dirt. Like,
it
wasn't always this way.
I love
it used to be sand and horse shit.
Well, I'm sure the horses did some good there. But like what I love about you coming to your garden is it's like, the first thing I want to do is grab a glass of wine. I want to go look at your garden. I don't even care if it's wintertime or whatever. I want to see like what kind of
sticks I have.
Or like, I like to look at the consistency of your soil. Springtime is my favorite because you have like a ton of volunteers everywhere and they grow so well. Like, I'll never forget, and it was it was summer. I was at your house and it was like your soil and then these radishes. I'm like, my radishes are bolting. You're in freaking Idaho. It is way hotter. Your radishes are just like, hey, I'm a perfect radish over here. Look how round I am, like.
That's how they talk.
And then
you have turnips.
And then you have like these turnips that are like so perfect. And there's like, the soil was actually quite dry. And I was like, oh my gosh, Nadia, how do you do this? But it's because they have a good root system, because they have a nutrient soil.
Yeah, it was that way with Mom's raspberries before they moved. I remember going to her house and getting some of them and I literally came home. I just made these little shallow pits and then stuck the canes in there, and miraculously, like all 15 survived. And I was like, whoa, I can do this.
Yeah.
So then I started sticking things everywhere and then it just blew up.
Oh my gosh, you have so much. I would love to do a tour of your garden someday. And I plan on doing that. I want to come visit and I want you to take me on a tour. And like the thing that you do for me, like I'm just going to walk around, I'll bring my drone, I'll follow us around. And I just want you to, I want you to show me things, and I want to just see it all. Yeah.
That gets me so excited. I'm like, that is like the best thing ever. I love that.
It is. Yeah. And then,
and I'll come to your place and then you'll take me through your garden, which is amazing. Oh, so beautiful. Oh. I haven't seen a garden with more amazing views. I have not.
The views here are amazing. We're so blessed. We got so lucky with this farmhouse, and we're so blessed that John has the knowledge and the ability with all of his heavy equipment to do all that stuff. Because I always tell people when they come over, they're like, oh my gosh, you've done so much. This is incredible. I'm like, and some people they want to do the same thing and they expect the same kind of results. And we always tell them, just so you guys know, we have heavy machinery. This would not be possible without excavators and other things. I mean, it's just even our garden beds. We built those garden beds in a weekend pretty much. Well, John did. And he was like building them, and then he'd pick them up with the excavator, plop it down. And these are massive 12 by 4 foot beds. So, or he'd like lift a section of it up or whatever it was. And then filling them would have taken months. I think I have 12 of these large, ginormous beds. It was just like scooping it in and just he filled them probably within an hour.
But it was not always that way. You guys had a small garden in the city. And I remember your containers. You had a drip line connected to your containers from your faucet or your faucet outside. And everything was just so green and so lush. And
peppers and tomatoes down the side of our house.
In between the cracks in the driveway. So talk about volunteer plants. I mean, literally you guys had them growing out of every orifice.
And then we eventually built a garden in the back, and I messed that up a couple different ways, but that was built on like gravel. Like we just piled dirt on top, and the plants figured it out.
But you made it work. You created it was a small space, but it was thriving. It was amazing. Your peas, I have never seen peas grow that high in my life. I've tried. They just don't.
You know what it was? I think I know what it was. So the peas were growing on the side of the chicken coop, and there was sand in the chicken coop, like back play area. And I think all of the droppings from the chickens and the water just flowed down, and it just crazy fertilized them. They basically had access to all of those nutrients. And so have I replicated it? I have not been able to replicate those peas.
Sometimes it's just when things just come together so perfectly, it creates.
I know.
Those were some amazing peas.
Yeah, they were massive. And when I say massive, they were like 10, 12 feet tall. They were crazy, like Jack and the Beanstalk, pea stalk.
Yeah. And they were prolific, very prolific.
It was hot. They wouldn't stop. It was like I didn't even know what to do with them. We had peas coming out of our ears.
Pretty much.
But it was so fun. It was so fun. Yeah. So I was going to say, I never told you, this is total side note, but I didn't tell you this. So last time you and I chit-chatted, we were talking about like radiation and the effects of electromagnetic radiation, and why gardening feels so good as if today's jobs were so connected to computers like right now and everything else. Well, me personally, I've been going through a lot of dental stuff. I'm going through ortho. I have a bunch of restorations happening. My teeth were built on, so we're going to get crowns, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I got an x-ray, and like a full x-ray because of situations. And I was crazy. Anytime I have too much radiation or I get an x-ray, my gold ring makes my finger turn blue or purple or whatever, or black. So I know I'm like, I've got way too much radiation in me. My body's pH is off, or something's going on. And it happens right the day, like within 24 hours of an x-ray. I had to have another x-ray. And I was like, is there any way, this was over a week ago, and this was like within weeks of the prior one. I'm like, can't we just use the other one? Like, do I need to have another one? And this is at another clinic that's connected. And they called over to see if it was a full or a partial or whatever. And it wasn't what they needed. So I had to have another x-ray where you stand in that thing and it goes around you and whatever. It gets better. She put me in there, turned it on, it did its thing, but she's like, oh, nothing came through on the computer. Don't worry. It didn't x-ray you. It didn't scan you. So she, and she was really sweet, really nice. But she couldn't see anything. I'm like, okay, well, I guess since it didn't, do it again. Did it a second time. And again, it didn't do anything. She couldn't see any images on the computer. So thankfully there's a tech person there, and he came over, and they fixed it. But both attempts actually x-rayed me. So within a span of 1 month, I've been x-rayed 3 times. Insane. And literally like clockwork, because had I known, I would have totally stocked up a little bit on, I would have taken some stuff beforehand. I would have taken some holy basil or something because it's protective. Well, within 24 hours, I sure had a purple or like a black line from on my finger. So I'm like, crap. So I've been trying to eat a lot of cruciferous vegetables, trying to get outside, touching the dirt. I need to do a detox, probably.
Probably. Not probably. Yes, you do. You definitely need to do a detox.
Which is bathing in salt water. Was one of the things, was taking saltwater baths. What was the other stuff? I don't remember.
Binders. Talk about binders.
Yeah, binders. Yeah. And actually, so I wanted to share that with you because I hadn't told you that yet. And I'm like, Nadia's going to be like, oh my gosh, Olivia, you better get on that stuff, which I will. So that is why I wanted to share this little did you know with you. So I'm going to spill some tea. And I don't know if you know this, and I'll send you images or I'll try to put them up like on the screen later. So I don't know if you've ever read about the solar activity in human behavior over history. So all of this is fascinating. So in 1971, there was a professor, Tchaikovsky, so a Russian feller. He basically plotted all of the important historical events on a graph. So wars, revolutions, like anything major that happened in human history. And then he plotted a graph of the solar cycle, which is we have solar maximum, solar minimum, solar maximum, solar minimum. And why this is important, because I'll share that next, which you might know some of the next stuff. So he plotted it, histories of 72 countries between 1750 and 1922. He found that 80% of the most significant human events occurred during the 5 years of maximum solar activity, which we have just now entered solar maximum as of like this last few months or whatever year. He also found that 80% of the most significant human events occurred so a solar maximum can increase human warfare activity as well as human creativity. So there's there's actual charts. This is on ResearchGate. Like this is not like some obscure conspiracy article, but this is like actual data. And what's crazy too is right now, separate area of research, the Earth's magnetic field is weakening. So also ResearchGate. There is so basically the Earth's magnetic field, the magnetosphere is the protective layer around the Earth that protects the Earth from the cosmic rays and solar radiation. So once they hit it, they change, it protects, a lot of it bounces off. So on top of everything, on top of this cycle that we go in, that we periodically get more impact to our bodies, and which is, I believe, every sun cycles every 11 years or something like that. On top of that, this protection we have is getting weaker, and it's decreasing by like 10% every year or like something crazy. It means more and more radiation from various places, the sun, the other planets, other things in the air and in space is coming down to Earth and actually impacting humans, their bodies, and their nervous systems. And we all know that, it can impact the mitochondria, which is like the powerhouse of the cell. There's an actual article on Frontiers that talks about like impact on the nervous system. And it's interesting that the impact on the nervous system probably is driving these crazy world events. Humans are a little bit more psycho during that time and more creative. There's good things that happen. But anyway, and on top of that, we have all this crazy technology that we're now consistently holding on to and touching and connecting with, and we have completely left the connection that we have with the earth behind. Like very few people, aside from gardeners, actually get out there and touch the dirt, which is so good for you because it helps balances. So that was my incredible, did you know my space weather hobby of studying space weather coupled with the health stuff. So I didn't know if you've ever looked at it from that angle of the importance of doing more over the next 5 years.
That's amazing. And just a side note on that, Ole is like an endless, how should I even describe it? You have like an endless amount of information. You know so much stuff.
But I don't remember where I put I don't remember where I put things when I put them in a safe place.
But I learned something new from her every single conversation. That is fascinating. That is fascinating. Yeah, I definitely can see that. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So earthing
And
is an important thing to do for sure. And I think I wonder how that is going to change a lot of people over the next couple of years. I feel like there's more people that are starting to get into gardening and are getting out in nature. And I think people they're like, it's this innate need, like they need to do that.
Yeah.
And they're being pulled
towards that. I hope so. Like, I hope,
like, come back.
Yeah. It's like, hey, come back. And subconsciously, we were created to be in the garden, and there's this deep desire to reconnect with it when our bodies feel unwell or overwhelmed. Yeah. And I know when I'm feeling emotionally kind of charged or tense or whatever, like I've shared this before, I like to go out and sit in the middle of my field behind the barn and just plop down like a weirdo and just sit there, and then you start noticing the bugs and then the little things, and it's just
zone out,
and then you physically feel better.
Maybe zone in is better.
Zone in, yeah. You physically feel better, like you feel healthier, you feel more balanced. Everything.
Yeah, I never feel worse after a day in the garden. I feel sore, but it's a good sore. And then your brain just feels reset, refreshed, ready for whatever it is ahead of you. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's like, this is like burning. Like I have this image in my head of like the apocalypse with the gardeners, and there's like everything's exploding, and there's a gardener standing there with just pulling some weeds. Like, oh look what I grew. Totally calm and like collected, and oh man, that's funny. Yeah. So
very interesting.
Thank you. Do you have anything exciting going on that you want to share?
Gosh, maybe things that are exciting to others are not that like I'm excited. Just don't know if it's like worthy of.
Yes, it is. I'm your sister. It's worthy.
Well, let's see. What am I excited about? I'm very excited today about finishing my seed starting. Oh, and I just got all my seedling mix supplies. I have a huge pile behind this camera.
Yeah.
Box after box, everything from Home Depot, Amazon, earthworm castings, cocoa core. I have vermiculite. What else? Perlite. I mean, I'm very excited.
Share the PSA about vermiculite, because you told me this, and I think more people need to know.
I didn't know it until I started looking for vermiculite. And vermiculite is something I use in the garden all the time. I use it to cover my carrots when I sow when I sow carrots. I like to put vermiculite on top, and it's an awesome mineral, and it's great because it helps retain moisture. Perlite is more to aerate things, so it's a good additive to your seedling mix or to your containers, but it's more to aerate the soil so it can drain. Vermiculite is to retain moisture, and I couldn't find it. There were some places that had it available, but they were so expensive. So I, of course, whenever I run into something like that, I immediately text my sister. I'm like, Wala, FYI, get your vermiculite now.
Yeah.
And last year I went to a nursery nearby and I picked some up. No problem. It was super cheap, and they don't have it. They didn't have it. And that's when I panicked. I was like, what? I depend on you guys. And so then I called around and I found another nursery that had 2 bags.
Nice.
3.5 cubic foot bags. So now I have everything to start.
You have everything. And do you do because I've learned, I used to buy seedling mix already pre-made, but it adds up. It's so expensive, and it's so much cheaper just to buy these. So what do you put in your seedling mix? You put vermiculite, maybe some perlite, depending on what it is you're growing.
I do earthworm castings And then I also do the coco coir. I've gone away from using peat moss.
It's more
That's
acidic too.
It's more
Peat moss.
acidic. Yeah, yeah. So
And
I've
it's
gone.
not good for the environment. I
It's
know
not good
that.
for the environment, and it's more acidic. And I just felt like my seedling mix was it dried out way too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I like having the ability to control what goes into it based on my environment, our drier climate here in Idaho. And it's
Yeah.
hard to find that perfect seedling mix that's for you, for our 44 north latitude.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I make my own now.
How much worm casings do you? So for anybody that doesn't know, worm casings are basically worm poops, and the worms eat things and they release this stuff, and it's like garden gold. How much ratio approximately, like, do you do equal parts, a third to three-fourths, or what? I don't know.
Yeah, I usually do equal parts, like a 1-to-1 ratio.
Okay.
And I hate to say this, but I go by how it feels in my hand. It's kind of
How
like
it
people that cook and they're like, oh, I don't know, I just eyeball it. Well, I feel like
I just
that's what I do with my
That's what you
seedling
do.
mix. But
So you
go ahead.
Interesting. So I've never tried that. I've never tried to put worm casings into. I usually just, I don't know. I just never tried it. I'm going to try it this year because we have a worm farm here nearby that I can contact and order worm casings in bulk for way cheaper than they are at the store.
Yeah, if you get enough of the earthworm casings or castings, I think it's
Yeah.
castings actually. I do put more of it. So
Hmm.
1-to-1 would be the perlite, the vermiculite, and then I do generally add a little bit more of the what I call the compost or the
Hmm.
earthworm castings.
Nice.
Maybe 3 or 4, 1 to 4.
Hmm.
It's not going to make it worse. That's for sure.
No, it's going to feed them longer. It basically gives them all the nutrients they need. And
Yeah.
yeah. So speaking of worms, which I have to share this with you too, because you might need this tip and anybody else watching. So I'll share the tip after. So speaking of worms, I have this garden bed that I threw a bunch of stuff into, and it was in the middle of like summer, and we had crows, and I didn't want the crows to go in there and dig because I had eggshells that I added and stuff, and my chickens kept trying to sneak in there. So covered it up with like garden fabric that lets the water through,
Hmm.
like a weed barrier type of material that still lets all the rain through and all the water. And I kind of like stretched it across the thing. It dips a little bit. And then I put wood on the side and clamped it down so the critters can't get in and stuff. And anyway, I peeked in there last week and I literally lifted it up, opened it, and it looked like I've never seen that many worms in my life. It was the coolest thing ever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to grow in here? Because it's going to be full of nutrients.
Nice.
It was pretty cool.
So what
But
are you going to grow in there?
I've had this fantasy about growing a giant pumpkin, like the kind that goes
You
to
and
the
I both
fair.
go, friend. I got so many pumpkin seeds this year. I'm like, I want a Cinderella pumpkin, but I want a fat one.
I want one that we need a forklift. Like
Yeah,
I
like
want
a
that kind of.
carriage size
So I
or a
did some
queen.
research. Yes, I want to carve it and I want to sit in it.
I could actually see you doing that. You guys, if anyone would grow a ginormous pumpkin, carve it and sit in it, it would be Ola.
Because then I could like put little wheels on the sides and,
Oh, you
make
totally
it look.
would. You should.
Oh, that'd be so cool. Why has
I just
nobody
see your
done?
excited face and how happy that would make you. I think you should totally do it.
You would join me. You would come celebrate. Like, can you imagine why has nobody done that? Why has nobody grown a giant pumpkin and then carved it and turned
Maybe
and
they
made it?
have. We should Google it.
We should do it. Yeah. But yeah, so growing a large pumpkin, I researched it, and you basically have to start it super early. You have to put it in a ginormous pot or build a mini greenhouse around the area where you're going to be growing this pumpkin with the perfect kind of mini environment. And then as soon as the fruit starts to set, you have to like remove the other ones. You can't have multiple pumpkins. You can only leave one pumpkin per plant. And you're kind of gambling because if anything goes wrong, so you almost want a couple of these special pumpkins, and then, you'll kind of, if one dies, you have another one. And there are certain seeds that you want to use for this. Like you can order on Etsy, like people's own giant pumpkins, they'll sell you the seeds.
I am rooting for you. Like, get on it, girlfriend. I want to see this giant pumpkin.
I know.
All this amazing stuff about growing the giant pumpkin. We've got to make it happen.
I got to make it happen. I know. I don't know if I'll do it this year, but for sure next year, because I need the warm space to do it in. That's the problem. Yeah. I already figured it out. It's going to be a big garden bed on a pallet, and we can just move it from the greenhouse down to the garden later.
So since we're not doing the pumpkin this year, what are some new things that you're going to try growing this year?
This year?
Mm-hmm.
New things. Good question. The one thing that I have kind of failed at is corn. Like, I've grown corn, but I want juicy, sweet corn on the cob. And for some reason, my corn grows tall and beautiful. The plants, like the plants get tall, but the corns themselves are just kind of small. And so either I start it kind of late and it hits certain season when it's harder to grow or something. I don't know. I need to figure out corn.
Corn is a hard one for sure, especially if other people are growing corn around you and they're pollinating each other. Oh, you can get some really weird corn. So I almost do a sacrificial corn. So what I do is I have corn around the perimeter. That's like my sacrificial corn. And then in the middle, I have my corn that I want to grow to eat. It's not perfect, but it does help. That's been my secret strategy.
Sacrificial corn.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Thanks for taking one for the team. Usually there is corn. It's just it's squishy and it's not yummy. I mean, I haven't really researched it enough to say, is there another way to do it that's better? But we have farms all around us, so I know that it's extremely challenging to grow if you have other people growing corn or farms.
Yeah. Because I've mastered a few things. I've mastered peppers. I've kind of gotten the tomatoes. I finally figured out how to do watermelon, butternut squash. I got that down. Actually, I'll tell you what I'm doing this year. My big focus on this year is not even so much in the garden. Like, I'm not doing anything new. I'm doing my favorite things. This year, I'm focusing on berries. So this weekend, besides starting seeds, I need to get out into the garden and put pavers down to create actual pathways that my strawberries can't grow on because they just
you have
buried
such
everything.
An impressive strawberry patch. It's like
it was a dream come true.
Yeah, it's my dream.
So right now is the time to fertilize your strawberry patch because the strawberries are dead. Yeah. So right now, go in there and sprinkle whatever you got to sprinkle because they're going to start growing here early in the spring. As soon as they can possibly do it, they're going to start doing it.
Send the chickens out.
Yeah, send the chickens out, sprinkle whatever you got to do. And then I need to take care of the berries because there's no way to walk into the center. You're just stepping on berries. And then I want to plant grapes. So I have a space. I'm going to uproot my blueberry plants that I have. I only have 4. I'm going to transplant them to a different spot. Grapes are going to go there. And then I'm going to plant new raspberries, more blueberries. Like, I want to plant at least 15 blueberry bushes because I'm obsessed with blueberries.
Same.
And so I might do 4 bigger ones that are already more mature and then do the rest smaller ones and stuff like that. So that's kind of my plan.
They grow really well in Oregon. I remember Mom's blueberries. They were always so big and delicious.
Yeah.
They're really hard to grow in Idaho. You have to create like this micro environment that's, acidify the soil because our soil is so alkaline.
Interesting. Well, I definitely don't have that problem. Acidify. Yeah. So what about you?
I think my area that I really want to focus on is medicinal herbs, culinary herbs. I want to create a medicinal garden, and I've been meaning to do that for a long time. And I've been planting medicinal things into my garden, but I just want to create a space for it and let it self-pollinate or
Take
self-sow, take over and just be my space to go to get medicine. And I'm really excited about it, actually.
Where are you going to put it? What are your thoughts?
Well, there's an area I want it towards the front or towards the back. I haven't decided yet. There's like 2 spots I've narrowed it down to. It needs to be a space where I'm okay with. A lot of the medicinal plants are actually weeds.
Yeah.
So I need to be okay with them ending up in places I don't want it to end up. So I think in the very front, so I can keep it under control and, bring things in if I need to.
Yeah.
I have lavender growing there already, so it'd be a perfect place to just add on to.
Perfect place. Yeah. I think some medicinals you can always do in pots. So for example,
yes, that's what I've been doing, which is really nice.
My lemon balm has taken over my herb garden. So I'm going to be pulling lemon balm sprouts out to make sure it doesn't take over my echinacea and my other stuff. It's gone crazy. And that's the beauty of it, is it smells so good, and the butterflies and the bees love it. It's so magical.
It's a great addition to tea.
So you could probably, if chickens don't eat certain things, plant some things maybe in the chicken area, temporarily protect it. Yeah. Because there's some things they won't eat. And as long as you put something up where they can't get in there, so maybe a row, like put up a little thing.
Like you did the cover crop in your chicken run, which is, I do want to do that this year. I want to do buckwheat and clover. I got red clover, white clover, buckwheat, and I'm going to fence off an area like you had done with your chickens.
Even easier. You don't even need to fence off. I was doing it wrong. Because the birds eat it. You know what you do? I learned this on TikTok or Instagram or something. You sprinkle down your seeds and then you get a piece of weed cloth that still lets water through, and you you kind of rake them in, whatever you're doing, cut a strip, like you reuse this piece of cloth over and over again in your chicken run, put it down, throw some pavers on the edges and make sure it's watered. And then in a week, come back, peek in, and they'll start, will start sprouting.
So much easier.
But then the chickens will get in there and tear it up really fast. So at that point, it does help to fence it off. I guess you're right there. But the birds will eat it.
I think my main reason for doing that is I do want the chickens to have access to it. I want the bees to get the flowers. Yeah. So I might create like a separate area where it's like completely blocked off from the chickens.
Yeah. Block it off and then put the fabric down, because the birds will eat it. The fabric makes them germinate, and the birds won't get it.
Okay. I'll have to think this one through, because I do want the bees to get in there.
Well, no. Well, you don't need the bees in there when the seeds are germinating. You put the fabric down to germinate.
Oh, you're talking about, I thought you meant like the birds are going to, whoa. I was like, do the birds really eat the buckwheat and the red clover? Like, can I not have the flowers?
No. So what I noticed,
birds like attacking my red clover. Like,
yeah. No. So what I experienced is, yes, I fenced it off, but the birds ate the seeds. I didn't get the germination that I wanted to. And so what I learned is that first week, even if you fence it off so they can't get in there, let the plants grow a little taller and then let them in. But yeah, and I want to do buckwheat too, actually.
Yeah.
That is, maybe, I don't know if I'll do it this year, but it's a fast growing crop.
It's so fast, and it's an amazing, amazing food. We eat it a few times a week, probably. I have never harvested buckwheat berries, so I don't know how practical it will be for actually collecting it, but maybe somebody can comment on that has grown buckwheat.
Yeah.
I haven't really researched it. I like something, and I'm like, I'm going to grow it.
Yeah.
And then I deal with whatever.
And then you're like thrashing it. You're like, I could have bought this $5 bag at the store.
Yeah. Pretty much. But I know how to do it. That's all.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I want to know how to do it, and I want the experience of doing it. And I feel like that's.
Yeah. I think it makes you appreciate it. Again, it goes back to that romantic journey. You know exactly what it entails, growing it, what it looks like, how hard it is for some of these plants to grow. And then you just appreciate them more. And then you just savor every little bit.
You're like, don't let that food go to waste.
Yeah.
I know. I feel the same way. Oh, well, I'm excited about gardening, and
Me too.
this actually inspired me to like. I was looking forward to garden doing stuff this weekend, but a part of me was like, "Oh, but I got to do this and that." And now I'm like, "No, I'm going to make starting that a priority because as soon as I do, it's like I don't know what it is. It's like a certain light bulb goes off in my brain and my body, and every day I wake up excited because I want to run down and check on my seeds or check
Yeah.
on my
Well,
plants."
the reality is, so in our area, the last freeze date, I think, is around 10 weeks away. Our last
Mm.
frost date is about 12 weeks away. So there are, if you check your seed packets and you look at the description, it tells you how far back from the last frost date you should plant them or start them,
Yeah.
whether it be indoors or outdoors. So I would say, a lot of them are 8 weeks to 12 weeks.
Yeah. So
So
now's the time.
now is the time.
Yeah. Any advice as we wrap this up? Any advice for people on what are maybe 3 tips for if this is their first time they're going to start their own seeds inside their house? What are some just 3 basic tips that you think everybody needs to know?
Don't be afraid to plant extra. Like, that's the thing is especially if it's your first time, it's more forgiving. So if you lose some plants, say they get leggy or
Mhm.
something, you can pick the best out of the bunch. The hard part though is it's really hard to sacrifice even the leggy ones. I always feel bad for them. So I end up trying to save them. And then it becomes very involved. And like, there's like I do a whole physical therapy with my fans.
You're like taking the little leaves and come on up and down.
No, pretty much, but with the fan, like I just like move it around so that they're getting
Oh
their
yeah.
crunches in and their squats.
That is so funny.
So, but that's my first tidbit is don't be afraid to plant extra. And I would,
Mhm.
especially if it's your first time. 2, give yourself grace and be forgiving to yourself. I mean, there's a lot of failures and a lot of wins in gardening. Don't give up if you fail. Everybody in gardening fails. That's how you learn, and that's how you end up with what you might call a green thumb, is because you learn from your mistakes. And I think a lot
Mhm.
of people give up because they're like, oh, I can't keep a snake plant alive. Like, there's no way.
Mhm.
Do it. Don't give up. It's so worth it. And when you do win, you're like, you just feel so accomplished and just so gratifying. And
Yeah.
so that would be my second bit. And then my third bit is make things colorful. I would do a lot of like red tomatoes. I would do a lot of like green cabbage. But the more I learn about food and what our bodies need variety. And if you can grow the rainbow in your garden, you're going to get all the things that your body needs. And also think about, that's number 4, I think now, but think about
Bonus round.
the bonus round. So bonus round is, we are meant to eat in season, and think about all the different things that you eat at different points in the year. Thanksgiving, pumpkin, squash, more potatoes, things like that. So think about that and plan your garden around that too, so that you can have things that are in season growing in your garden, and you can eat the more natural way, the way we were intended to eat. You'll feel better.
I love that. And for anyone that does not know, because I failed to make this introduction, you're a smarty pants when it comes to health stuff because you're in the medical field and you have a doctor of nursing and you work in the functional kind of integrative functional medicine world, and you actually work with a lot of kiddos.
I do. So I do work in functional pediatrics, and I think, one of my, as I've been doing this, I'm learning that food, lifestyle, all the things, the nutrition aspect, the things that we didn't spend a lot of time learning about in school, is the most important. And I'm relearning myself, but I'm also teaching them when they're really young to instill that in them, the importance of food is medicine.
Mm-hmm.
The way, the things we do in life, sleep, stress, exercise, all those things. So anyway, sorry, I'm going to go on a tangent, but
No.
yes, I do
Actually,
functional medicine. Mm-hmm.
And I love how you say, eat the rainbow, or what is it that you tell the kids? You tell them to
Literally, I tell them to eat the rainbow. I challenge them to go to the store with their parents and look for different color vegetables. I mean, they always think of a fruit, but if you ask them to look for a purple vegetable, that's a hard one. But I challenge them to look out for those purple ones, look out for the blue foods. And when you look down at your plate, and I want them to ask themselves, is that Nadia approved? Is Dr. Nadia going to approve that?
Oh, that is so cute.
Would she be happy? If it looks very colorful and you've got every color on your plate, we're happy.
You got a thumbs up. I love that. And I actually wanted to plug this because if you want to learn more about the, medical aspect of things and how food can be used to keep us healthier, that's the whole goal. So we don't need to go get that emergency medicine and things like that. And I mean, because that stuff is necessary under certain circumstances, but to keep us healthier, especially if you're a mama with kiddos. She has an amazing blog that she started, and you can sign up to get her newsletter where she sends kind of the seasonal stuff that you need to know. And I'll drop the link for everybody right above the fold for you to get on that and join her. I love reading her articles. They're so informative.
Thanks.
So she's amazing.
I enjoy writing them.
Oh, I miss you. I wish you were closer. And at least we have the upside of technologies. At least we have the ability to do this kind of a thing. And so this was a fun chat, and I'm excited to do it again.
Same. Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
You're very welcome. Bye, sister.
Bye.
Bye.